webinar, and the goal of this is just to give you some ideas and suggestions from people that have kind of perfected their craft of fundraising and have achieved some good success with that. So whether your goal is $100 or it's $5,000, we want you to feel like you can get some new ideas from this and some support. Pardon me. So, without any further ado, I will have our panelists. We have 4 panelists with us today introduce themselves and just share a little bit about their connection with the cause and where they're located and any other details they'd like to provide to you. So take it away, Darby.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Darby Sieben. I'm currently president of the Calgary chapter for Crohn's and Colitis. My involvement with this organization is I have a sister that's had Crohn's for probably about 20 some odd years. And I was diagnosed with colitis in 2009. I've been donating to the foundation for probably the last decade or so, and have been involved on the fundraising side just the past couple of years and on the fundraising end. So I'll pass it over to you, Kate.
Hi, I'm Kate Loddish. I'm from the Red Deer chapter. I personally have Crohn's disease, but I'm also a 3rd generation Crohn's sufferer, and I've been volunteering with the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation for about 25 years. On to you, Bradley.
Thanks. My name is Bradley Abels. I'm in Winnipeg, Manitoba, and I have Crohn's disease. I was diagnosed probably 9 years ago, and I've got family, friends, and my partner and her family all have IBD as well. I've been involved with the Gutsy Walk for, this will be my 6th year now, I believe. I started my first one with just a family team, and the past 5 years has been a corporate team. And Donna?
My turn, I guess. My name is Donna Doman. I'm in Winnipeg, Manitoba. I do not have the disease, but my daughter has Crohn's disease. Samantha was diagnosed when she was 16, which was 16 years ago. I have been with the Gutsy Walk for 16 years, just when Sam was diagnosed, but the last 7 years have been a lot more serious because she had a double bowel resection. So I've been TPE and very involved with the Gutsy Walk raffle every year. So I'm a supporter. I'm a caregiver. And on to.
Go ahead, Dara.
Okay, thanks, Donna. She definitely is quite the supporter, I would say, and quite the caregiver. Thanks for joining us, everyone. So I'm Dara. I'm staff Manitoba. So Carolyn and I are kind of like co-hosting this, but like she said, it's pretty informal. But so I'm going to introduce kind of our first round of, or I guess it's kind of the second round of the panelists talking. So we kind of organize this in a way that it can kind of be, we'll talk about something and then there's time for Q&A, or you can save your questions till the end. Up to you guys for those of you that are here, or you can just listen. So the second round that we're going to talk about is each panelist is going to share their top 2 tips, maybe more, maybe less, for fundraising. It could relate to goal settings or who they reach out to or whatever it might be. But they're going to share their top tips. So I guess, Darby, you can take it away.
Cool. Thanks. So actually, I'm going to share 3, but I'll kind of start with the first 2. So in my case, I'm pretty active across my network via, I would say, friends as well as business, and pretty public on social media that the fact that I'm supporting Crohn's and colitis and part of and actually have the disease as well. So I typically, there's a couple of key areas that I'll use. One is I do use email a lot, and when I tend to email out to my personal contacts in order to do that kind of direct would you be willing to do it? I tend to send emails more generically just to my group and say, hey, you're my group, my friends and family. But I tend to hide the emails so that people don't really know who I'm just emailing it to. That way I don't put any undue pressure on individuals, because I know some of my friends, will support with small amounts, but they have primary charities that they use elsewhere. And I'm the same way. My primary charity is Crohn's and colitis. So that's one of the things that I do with email, is try to do a direct reach out, make it as personal, but don't get right in their face in terms of, oh, Murray, I want you to do this. The second tip is I do tend to use a lot around social media. So on Facebook, for example, because that is mostly friends and family, I'm a little more aggressive on here's what I'm doing, et cetera, et cetera. I'll use other social media channels like Twitter, which is really just more of a reminder, and then LinkedIn to generate some buzz within, my business contacts, who, are, an important piece of the puzzle as well. So I use social media quite a bit. And then the third tip I would have is I have a small group of individuals that I know do charities, and they prefer to donate in stock as opposed to cash. So basically, stock in kind. And for that group, it's just a reminder to say, by the way, here's the form. I'll just quickly email it to them. Sometimes it doesn't get captured. Last year, it didn't get captured under my name within Gutsy Walk, which is fine because it still goes to the organization, which is fabulous. But for that group, I just remind them, here's the form to donate stock. And it's just a great way for them to, get the tax advantages, but not have any, quote unquote, cash out of pocket. So those are just a couple of the three, things that I tend to look at as I think about fundraising for Gutsy Rock specifically. Over to you, Kate.
Thank you. Those are great tips. The two things that I found really leveled up my fundraising was committing to one charitable cause only. So my family has chosen only to fundraise for Crohn's and colitis, so that I'm not doing 5 or 6 different walks or charity organizations and bleeding out my fundraising stream too early. So that's what we have done as a family. We're fully committed to Crohn's and colitis, and all of our friends and family know and expect that we'll just be doing the 1 or 2 things for Crohn's and colitis a year. And I've really seen a big increase in my fundraising through that. The second thing is actually the most valuable tip I ever got was from my dad, who noticed that if you are not keeping a tab on your fundraising page and watching where your goal is compared to where you're at. So say, for example, your goal is $1,000 and you are at $950, you will get less fundraising dollars once you hit that target, or the next donation will only be $50. So you got to stay on top of that. You got to be increasing your goal all the time. And so that means logging in a couple of times a week. If you're at $950 and your goal's 1,000, raise that up to 1,200. Don't ever raise it too far up, because then it looks like your goal is very unattainable. So I try to keep it very close to where I'm at, and then increasing it throughout the 2 months leading up to the walk. And off to you, Brad.
Right. So yeah, I kind of had 3 things as well, but the first one was mostly just talking about how to reach out to family and friends, which I think Darby largely covered. So I'll skip over that one. The next one would just be my advice on how to use social media. I basically use every form of social media that I have. Well, at least the big one. So I would say that'd be like Facebook, Instagram. And the biggest one, surprisingly, was LinkedIn. I found LinkedIn just by a lot of people on LinkedIn have a lot of contacts that they don't actually know, but are somehow connected through either the business community or an industry or the recruiters or whatever it may be. And just by posting it everywhere, you occasionally get a few random people donate, sometimes who you don't even know, just because they see it. So there's not really a harm in doing that, or in posting there, because of all the extra benefit you can get out of it. The other big tip that has contributed to my leveling up, especially since the family team, is just the whole corporate side of it. So I basically use every option available to me through that avenue. So I started at Canada Life at the end of 2017, which coincided with my graduation to top pledge earner status, I guess, because some of the options that they have include posting 1 or 2 articles on the company intranet. So I've had people who I know through the company not necessarily know that I was doing this, but they see the article and they go, "Oh, I know Bradley. I'll give in however much money." I'll send emails a little bit more personalized to ones who have either donated in the past or that I'm friendly with. Otherwise, sometimes they're not mass emails, but people like I'll send a mass email, for example, to my department. But I won't necessarily go beyond that because I don't want to start like spamming people's mailbox who really have nothing to do with me. But the department for sure is a big one. And then the biggest one that we use the company for are there 2 specific funding programs. There's one, there's a community volunteer grant where they'll give up to $1,000 just for saying that you volunteered with the organization that we direct towards the Gutsy Walk, me and another colleague do. And the other one is their corporate match. So for the teams, they'll match up to $10,000 in donations. So that's just a big incentive also to explain to work colleagues and say, any donation you give up to this amount, the company's going to match. So them giving 50 is actually the equivalent of contributing 100, which just sort of makes them feel like they're doing more. It for sure makes us feel like we're doing more as well. And it sort of incentivizes you to really try and reach that high goal of 10,000 and recruit people to help you move towards that. Yeah, so those are my big things. So I can pass it off to Donna.
Well, my number 1 tip would be do not be shy to ask about money. You have to ask for their money. And my 2 ways are email, and my second one is more personal. It's the phone. I phone people. And, I will do their donation right then and there. I've got my computer out. I get their information. I get their credit card information. People love, and I get the donation right then. If I don't phone them, I might never get the donation. Life gets in the way. They forget about it. I'm sending 3 or 4 emails. I don't want to do that. And a lot of people that I phone want to talk to me. They want to hear how Samantha's doing. Last year she was pregnant. They want to hear how was the disease through the pregnancy. I make a lot of phone calls. It works for me. And I don't sit down and do 20 a night. I will do 5 a night. I like doing that. It's a way to connect with people. And through email, my email is different. I have 150 people on my email list. I do not use the standard Crohn's and colitis letter. I really personalize it. I have my high school friends, and I direct it just to those high school people, which just shocks me every year. I'm 60 years old. Those people support me. I haven't seen them since high school, and they're supporting me. I have my husband's work friends, or the people he works with. So I've got that group. I've got my family and friends. I've got my kids. I've got Sam's family or Sam's friends. So I have a lot of different groups that I'm emailing, and my letter is different for every one of those groups. So my fundraising is time consuming, but it's effective, and it gets me, I get my goal every year. I get my goal of 5,000. My far goal is 10. I am going to be a $10,000 supporter soon rather than later. Back to you, Dara.
Thanks, guys. I think that was great. I think Carolyn's going to bring us to our next round now.
Yeah, I just wanted to stop here for a second, and if anybody has any questions at this point, Brenda, go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Yeah, thank you. So the person who, just hang on, who puts the request out on LinkedIn, for example, is it an open-ended statement? Is it a open-ended letter type of request? What does it look like?
Yeah, so when I post it, it's more like, hi, everyone. And I just get right to the point. I say, this upcoming Sunday, June 5th, I'm going to be participating in a Gutsy Walk. And I'll just kind of give a brief explanation about what the Gutsy Walk is, why I walk in it, and how IBD has affected my family. And I say, if you're interested in supporting, walking, or joining in any form, here's the link. And that's enough, because people just need to know about it.
Yeah.
Because especially come June and all over the summer, really, there's just so many charitable walks, and it's really easy to get lost in which one is for which cause and when each walk is happening. So yeah, if people can know, that's often enough just to incentivize them to help.
So when do you get that letter out on LinkedIn?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'll usually put it out maybe 3 weeks before the walk.
Okay.
I don't like to post too early personally, just because I find that if people see that, they go, oh, that's so far away, I'll just give closer to. But you don't also want to wait until closer to, because if people don't see it until, say, the week after, they often think, oh, it's too late. Even though we leave the window for donating open until, I don't know, I think it's even been as late as September some years. People like to donate before the walk, I find.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much. What a great idea. There was another one here. I think it was you, Kate, about suggesting or having family commit to only one. So in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, so I send an email out to everyone. Is it not real, everyone in my email box? So is it not cheeky of me to say, hey guys, let's just donate to Crohn's and colitis, right? How do you do that? How do you pull that off?
Okay, maybe I didn't explain it very well. I personally only am involved with one charitable organization. So I'm not asking people to donate to my son's gymnastics team. I'm not asking them to sponsor me because I'm going to go run for the Heart and Stroke Foundation. I only ask for money for Crohn's and colitis. I only commit to fundraising for them, so that I'm not posting something every 4 to 5 weeks asking for people to donate. So everyone in my life, on my social media, and in my family and people I see day to day, they know that that's the only thing I do. They expect that each year, and they usually now set that aside for me. Instead of giving me, if I did 4 organizations, they might give me $25 for each commitment. Instead, they're just giving the $100 to Crohn's and colitis.
Okay, so here's what I got from you on that, and I love it, okay? Is in my personalized emails and or phone calls, I'm going to tell people, hey guys, this is the only one where I ask for money, right? I'm not above begging. So that's one thing. But the second is, I think there's, I got to think about it and how to pull it off. But I think it's okay to say to, your loved ones, even if they're in-laws, to say, well, I'll tell you, for me, I only ask for money on this. So maybe that's what you want to do, because I know we're all connected in one way or another to Crohn's and colitis. And right? I got to work on a script for that, but I'm not above asking. Or do you think that's pushing it?
Don't be embarrassed.
Yeah, I have no pride, Donna. So
Don't be embarrassed
when it comes to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, my
Okay.
family, because we are all affected by Crohn's disease. On my mom's side, everyone is very committed to Crohn's and colitis, and it is our charity of choice. But it's okay. It's okay for the people who are donating to donate to more than one cause, but knowing that you're not going to come back in 3 months for your next charity run really helps get your pledge dollars up.
Well, that's a good point, though, because to go back a moment in time, we actually have 2 times a year when we're asking for money, right? The second one is in the fall with the auction. So, but I still like it. Okay. I've got a nugget already from the 2 of you, so thank you. Yeah, so now I'm going to ask everybody. Okay, thank you.
Good.
Great questions. Does anybody else have any questions that they'd like to discuss at this point? You can either unmute yourself or you can raise the hand under the reactions portion of your menu there. And if you think of something later on, you can just put it in the chat to Dara or myself or to everybody, and we'll get back to it later on. So we'll move on to the next round. And this one is something I know that I struggle with when I ask. It's the fear of rejection. How do you overcome that? How do you overcome going to somebody that you maybe don't know very well, or a business that you don't want to like upset in any way and think that you're being demanding or entitled to their support or something like that? How do you get over that fear of rejection? Darby, do you have any tips for us on that?
Yeah, I don't know if it's so much tips as it is. There's a network of individuals that I know really, really well, and so I'll push them hard, and I mean, push them hard. You know, they're obviously very supportive, and away we go. For individuals that, you know, I may not know, like work colleagues, where I will post on some internal channels about what I do. It's more of an FYI. Here's what I'm doing. This is important to me. You know, even on LinkedIn, it's very much, you know, I start off my post tag as this is a personal post, not a business, because I do post a lot about business. So that way, if somebody's looking at this going, I only want to read your business content, they'll just pass on or go from there. So I'm not afraid of rejection. I'm not afraid of talking to people about it and asking them. I do just like to be a little more for your information. This is why it's important. And then if they want to engage, I'll engage deep. And if they don't, because they may have another charity that they're supporting, then, you know, I'll respect that as well. So I don't think there's any harm in it. I've never had anybody be offended that I've posted something, or if I've talked to them about it and asked them, would you like to donate? I've never had a single person get offended at that. But I also want to be mindful, because a lot of people ask me every year, can you donate to my charity? And I just simply say, you know what, I have my core charity that I donate to. So if somebody starts to go that route, then I'll just back off very quickly and say, hey, you know, if you don't mind, maybe like my post or just tag me, because then I can at least tap into your network and get a little bit out there as well. So I say just go for it, but also be mindful. Some people have other charities that they support as primary charities. What do you, Kate?
I think that the fear of rejection has really changed as the Gutsy WalksCon has grown over time. First of all, no one's going to be mean to you. No one's going to put you down. Even if someone's not going to donate, they're going to be very kind about it. They're going to say, you know, I'm sorry, I can't, or I already donated this month. And then the one nice thing is social media has really taken away rejection. So, you know, back 20 years ago, we used to go door to door asking people to donate. And of course, people would say no. But now the majority of fundraising dollars, at least for my community in Red Deer, comes from online donations. And so social media gives you a little bit of a chance to write out your personal story, attach a photo of your loved ones with permission, of course, to personalize why you're involved in this walk. And I found that creating that personal connection that social media allows you to create versus going door to door like the old days, you no longer get that rejection. People are more open to share their own health experiences, their own family struggles, and they're more willing to donate, even if it's small amounts like $10. They just multiply so quickly. So don't be afraid. Share your story to the point where you're comfortable and really utilize social media to get over that fear of rejection.
Yeah, I think a lot of what I was going to say has probably been said already. The big things were, like nobody's going to be rude about donating to a charity. So I think once you kind of get that, like understand that, you kind of realize there's not that much to be afraid of. Also, the fact that so much fundraising now is done over social media and by email, I find a lot of the times that people aren't going to donate, they just won't respond. So there's not like a direct rejection there. the worst that you get is just no response, which is fine too. And to be honest, like I do very, very little fundraising by talking to somebody face to face, especially because of COVID over the past 2 years. We've had to kind of learn to adapt with that anyway. But yeah, and I kind of word it like when I send these emails as well, usually what I'll do is I'll send like one line that's kind of more personalized than the generic stuff. But then I'll end the generic stuff by saying, you know, we understand that there's lots of walks going on and there's other charities to support, and whatever you feel you can give to us is greatly supported if you're able to. So we like, at least I will try to not pressure somebody into doing it so that they might be more open to supporting in the future if they're able to. So I'll kind of do it that way. I was going to say one other thing and I just forgot. Oh yeah, and the other thing I was going to say was that a lot of people want to give more than you might think. And I think, I don't know, maybe I don't want to say too much about that because I'm pretty sure I got that advice from Donna last year or the year before. But I really saw it this year when I did see, like I said before, kind of people who I wouldn't have expected to come in or who I didn't even directly reach out to donate. So that's just something to keep in mind too, is people do want to support more than you might think. So yeah, Don, I'll let you continue there.
Okay, this is a bit different, but fear of rejection, no, I have no fear of that. I have fear of asking. I absolutely have a fear of asking. I have a fear of getting on the phone and asking people again for their money. But how I combat that is, you know what I like to do? I like to read the honorary chair stories that we post on the main webpage. Those break my heart, especially the ones with the little kids. And when I read those, give me a phone. Give me a phone. I'm calling someone and I'm going to ask somebody for some money because we need money. We need money. We need to find a cure. And that's what it is. And when I go to the Gutsy walk and I meet people and people tell me their stories, I go home, I'm on the phone. I just make 2 or 3 phone calls and I share a story that I just learned. Sometimes it's when my daughter's feeling good, her heartstrings aren't pulling at mine because she's good. Grandma Kate's working for her. I need a story that's going to motivate me, that where someone I can really put a face to someone that's living this. Some young child or some young teenager that's living this. I just can't believe it. And I get on the phone and I ask. If you say no, that's fine, but I ask. I'm not embarrassed. Not embarrassed to ask, and I'm not afraid to ask. Dara?
Thanks, guys. I think that's great. I think it's yeah, it gets awkward sometimes asking, but I think you guys all brought up really good points. So I guess we'll stop and see if anybody has any questions kind of about that kind of fear of asking, fear of rejection, any kind of things around there. If you want to raise your hand or put it in the chat, or you could just unmute yourself and ask the question. Otherwise, we'll move on to the next round, but any questions?
I was just wondering about does anybody ever get specific about exactly what the money goes to when they ask for money?
I have.
Good question.
I can't remember who or how many, but I have gone to the point before, and maybe it's even been to people who I've recruited for the team. But I have sent out that graphic that's on the Gutsy Walk or the Cooking Fighters website that shows the specific breakdown of where all the money goes to. I think people like to see where it goes. They don't necessarily, they might not be incentivized to give as much if there's like a huge percentage going to not specific, you know, like research. I think is like the biggest one for Crohn's and colitis, and I think that's a big positive for us.
Thanks. Sorry. Thanks.
Anne-Marie, do you want to unmute yourself and ask your question?
I don't really have a question per se. I like what Bradley says, and when I was doing my custom emails, I would say, I understand that there are many walks, and if you can support mine, there's many worthy causes, and donate to mine, that's great. But if you can't, I totally understand. The other thing that I do is I say, this is my charity, and should you approach me about your charity and want me to donate to that, I definitely will help you out.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I was actually going to pipe in and say the same thing. I think it relieves a little bit of anxiety to ask people knowing that you've also supported them when they come to ask. And I've had some people come and ask me for charities that they'll fundraise for during Christmas time, which is arguably just as difficult as the summer. So, they know they can count on you, and you can feel more comforted that you'll be supported by them.
I'm reciprocal as well. Like, even though I personally only walk for Crohn's and colitis, I do support my friends who support me in their endeavors as well.
Yeah, same here.
Oh, absolutely.
So there's a question through the chat. So Ryan just asked, when asking for donations through email, are you personalizing your email for every individual, sending mass emails, or kind of a combination of both?
I personalize per group. If I have 10 family members, I will personalize to those 10 members. I personalize for my Jeff's, the people my husband works with. That's another personalized email. So I personalize per group, not per person, because I have a lot of people on my email list. And I also strategize when I'm starting. Like, I haven't started my fundraising yet because we're 2 months out. So I will do a little bit each week. I'm not entirely sure when I'm going to start this year because I've got 1,000 things in my life right now, but I'll get started.
Interesting. I also agree that starting too early actually hampers the dollars I raise.
Mm-hmm.
For my emails, I send, I personalize the email from the online program to talk about my family. I do involve my kids in that. They love the Gutsy walk. And then we send separate emails for work colleagues. And then anyone that my husband's emailing through his corporation, he personalizes that email. The other thing I do is on social media, I tag people in my family who are affected by the disease so that their friends and family will see the post. And with my family's permission, as the weeks go by, I'll change the photo I'm using to be, say, maybe Robbie and my kids or myself. So that their friends see it, their friends are like, oh, I forgot he's affected by that. And then they'll donate as well.
It's interesting. So I do personalization at the group level, not at the individual level. I actually tend to start fundraising early. And my kind of plan is, 90, 60, 30. And then as I get closer, just as constant reminders. And then throughout the year across different social media channels, I'll use, FYI or did you know, and just some sort of tidbit of information on research and just, something just to almost act as a reminder. So I do find most of the donations will come towards the end, but I like, kind of the 90, 60, 30-day rolling plan because stuff sometimes just gets lost in people's feeds. And you never know you can hit them. So I guess maybe that's where there's a little bit of a difference. I tend to start early and keep reminding.
Yeah, and I kind of will use a combination of different styles for emails. So the first thing that I'll do is send out an email that's more directed at recruiting for the team and or fundraising. Because I find that the people who have either joined the team in the past or who are likely to join the team just by nature of their relationship with me, I want to reach out to first, because if I can have them on board, then they can also start fundraising when they want to. And then after I've done that, I'll start sending the more specifically fundraising email with the option to join the team, but kind of not really expecting them to. And yeah, those ones I think I kind of said before, like I'll personalize to a point where I might add like one line at the beginning just to know that I'm not just sending out a mass email. Like I am thinking specifically of you, and I do want to ask you personally and just kind of let you know this. And yeah, and I also, I'm hoping that we can sort of do this more this year because we do have an option for an in-person walk this year. I think that by sending a message out to people, especially when recruiting, that we're all going to be getting together could be a pretty big incentive, and give people that personal connection too that you don't even need to do through the email. They already know they're going to be meeting up, because I had one friend specifically last year say, yeah, I'm happy to give and thinking of joining next year if it can be in person. So I think the earlier you can get recruiting, that helps as well.
Awesome. Any other questions? Or yeah, Brenda, go ahead.
So when you're talking about recruiting, what do you mean? You're recruiting for teams or money or what?
Yeah, sorry, recruiting to join the actual team.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Carolyn.
I have a question. So people have been talking about like a plan, a 90, 60, 30-day plan, and kind of different types of emails, but how often and how many times do you email the same people? And how often, and I don't know if you can put a number on it, but how many times would you post on social media? Is it weekly? Is it like once every 6 months? Like what is your, how many times do you reach out, I guess, before you actually get some response from the majority of your donors?
I can maybe jump in on the I find almost with every reach out, I get some sort of traction. And you know, some of that could be people not seeing it. Some of it could just be it just gets lost. I'll vary it based on channels. So with personal emails, I'll typically cap it at around 2, just a reminder of, you know, kind of at the beginning. And then as I'm getting closer to where I'm at, Facebook, I'll do a little more often. And something like a LinkedIn, I'll tend to do about once a month. And then as I get closer to it, I'll start to ask. I'll even do stuff like run polls to say, you know, do you support charities? And by the way, here's what I do, just as a different way to engage with individuals so they can still engage with my post. But it's not really me asking for money as an example. So, but I'll limit the business channels to usually once a month, the personal channels to a couple more, and then email usually twice. And then after that, I'll stop. And then work channels are really only one-time shots because I don't want to, you know, inundate work people, just, you know, the one message of, hey, this is what I'm doing.
Can I ask a question of you, Darby?
Yeah.
So on LinkedIn, however brief, would you also give your personal story?
I personally am comfortable with sharing my story. People can see on my profile, I donate to are active within Crohn's and colitis. And I make sure Crohn's and colitis is all over my feed on the bottom. So in my case, I am a little more like I usually just phrase it as I'm one of, you know, the 300,000 people that suffer from these diseases. I don't go into specifics, but just to personalize it a little bit, that I am one of this group of individuals and looking for support. But I don't turn it into more of a heartstring moment like maybe I will on Facebook, you know, just around updating here's what's happened to me over the last year. I won't do that in business channels.
Yeah, makes sense. Thank you.
I personally only send out one email, and then I'm more active on my social media. So as we get closer to the walks, I, you know, take a picture of us going out with my kids practicing, because 5 kilometers is a long way when you're 5. So take a picture that we're practicing, we're wearing our Gutsy shirts from last year. Now the Gutsy balloons have arrived, so we blow them up and we take a picture with the Gutsy balloons. Take a picture with, if you're lucky enough to get a yard sign, take a picture with the yard sign. And so I probably about 6 weeks prior to the walk, I start changing my social media into a constant flow of content for the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation. And my friends would be used to that because I'll post stuff about what we're doing in the community throughout the year. But I just start changing my content to be all Gutsy Walk. And so once a week, I'll put a link to my online page, but throughout the week, maybe 2 or 3 more times, I'll just post pictures with the maybe photo from last year, out going for a hike, wearing our Gutsy shirts, anything that I can kind of make, catch someone's eye because it's a nice photo, and then they will click and read and just be reminded, oh yeah, I forgot to donate to her. And I find that to be very effective.
Yeah, I'm pretty similar again to what's been said. There's not really one size fits all. For work emails, yeah, I'll typically only send one. Sometimes, just by nature of like people talking to each other, they'll get reminded by other people, or they'll see updates on the company intranet article that I might post. So there's not really a need for an additional reminder. And family, like, if it's just personal or like my brothers or something, I'll poke them every day. It doesn't really matter as much. But the one thing I will do two or 3 times is the team that I have recruited, I will send them a message to say, hey, let's do, let's reach out to your parents, your friends, your whatever. I'll send them an email maybe twice, just to make sure that they've also reached everybody that they can get. And yeah, so usually one, like once I've got the whole team together, and then another one maybe a week before the walk, just to get that final fundraising push. And then for social media, yeah, kind of like I said before, I'll really only post maybe once or twice, about a month before, and maybe a week before. Yeah.
I send out 2 emails. I send out the regular one, and if I usually give them about 4 weeks. And then again, use the phone. The phone really works. Darby's going, yeah. I challenge you. Pick up the phone. People don't say no over the phone, and have your computer open and put in their donation right then and there. It works. Darby's got this big smile on his face, like, never thought of the phone. Or
No, you're 100% right, Donna. You're 100%
the
right.
phone, it weighs
phone
1 million pounds. It does weigh 1 million pounds. Nobody likes to pick up the phone, but wow, you can raise some serious money over the phone.
That's great. And I think Kate put in the chat that she always sends a thank you email. That's always important to make sure that we're thanking the donors, so that they'll come back. I guess if there's no other questions, we can kind of go into like our last technical round, and then we have some questions that were submitted ahead of time that everyone has, if we have any, or if we have some time left. But the last kind of round, I guess you guys have, some of you have kind of alluded to it, but we're kind of talking about like surprise support. So have you guys ever like had donations that have come through that has like really surprised you? Like it's come way out of left field, and like, or like amounts that have surprised you? Because I know Bradley, you were saying how like sometimes people can give more than you think they can give. So I don't know if you guys have any little stories or just kind of random things that surprised you in the past.
Yeah, I got one story that actually surprised me. And he actually just donated again a couple of days ago. An old employee of mine, we had, obviously the organization I was with, we had to do some layoffs, and unfortunately I had to lay him off, and was actually just didn't really think, not that we left on bad terms, just, bad situation. And he really surprised me when, a couple of years back, he did a donation. It was quite large. He's of kind of that acquaintance network. He's one of the larger donators. And so it just kind of says, you know, you'd never really know. And I think if you're authentic about it, you know, it's good. But that was one that really surprised me because I wasn't 100% sure, you know, when you lay people off, what their reactions are going to be. But he's been a great supporter, and his amounts have been incredible, which I'm, you know, very surprised. And he doesn't actually have the disease. So I think it's just, you know, the relationship obviously that we built over the years has paid off, I guess.
Mhm.
I think I was really, I mean, I started with Crohn's and colitis as a youth. So I was very surprised as I grew up through the organization to find out how supportive corporations that you work with can be. I didn't expect that because I started so young. And that has really become a huge source of our dollars raised in Red Deer is corporations. And I would have never have thought about going to corporations. And these aren't even corporations that we work with. It's just word of mouth through the community. And so we have lots of corporations. We even have one in Red Deer that donates an amazing amount, but they also host now a pancake breakfast for the community with all the dollars going to Crohn's and colitis. And it's something I never thought of 20 years ago was to, and again, that goes to using LinkedIn. It is just amazing where you can find support that you never expected.
Yeah. So I think I've kind of mentioned before, kind of like Dara said, about the methods I've done. Like some of the ones I've been really surprised about would have come through social media because again, like last year, I think it was somebody donated through LinkedIn. I have no idea who they are. But you kind of like those one-time or random ones because then the next year, I'll obviously message everybody who messaged from last year. So then they just get added to the list. And if they don't give again, then they don't give again. That's fine. But at least you add another contact to your list there. You get a lot of reach through social media that way, like LinkedIn for sure, Facebook. Like my high school teacher donated last year that I was really not expecting, but that was really nice just because he saw the post. And then through work as well, there's kind of, you obviously want to respect the boundaries that you have at work and depending how big your company is and stuff. My company's quite big. So I won't necessarily I'm not going to try to reach that far to people who I absolutely have nothing to deal with, but just by nature of sending out to, the department alone, for example, then you also reach all different levels of people. So from, the students to the VPs or whatever. And a lot of the time, everybody is willing to give regardless of if they're at the same level as you or not, as long as they have a relationship with you. And a lot of the times, the higher you go, the more the amounts are going to be. Just by nature of they want to show that they're supporting you and it just works out really nicely that way. And then they know too that whenever they again, like we mentioned before, if they're doing something that they might want help with, they know that they can rely on you as well.
That's a tough question. I mean, I think every donation I've ever gotten is just awesome. I think maybe it's the people that have been supporting me for so many years now. It's definitely family. 16 years, every year, you never blink an eye, send the email. I mean, sometimes it's the ones that come so fast. I think, gee, I just sent that email out 5 minutes ago. Brenda Scott to me. It's just awesome. It's the people that just are there for you all the time. They just quickly send you that $100 and you go, wow.
The other thing I'll mention too that I forgot is I will say in my fundraising email that no amount is too small. I will specify that you do need to give at least 15, I think, for a tax receipt. But that, no amount is too small. Every, $5 or whatever does contribute to a total because you get 10 people giving $5, all of a sudden you've got 50. And then they become part of the community. And that's a big part of what we're trying to do too, is just bring people in, at least get their foot in the door and something else I found is a lot of the people that have been supporting me since I've been doing the walk in the beginning, will increase their amounts over the years. And it's like I get an email from a friend of mine and it's like she's doubled her amount from last year. I'm like, oh, I did not expect that. It's really nice. So yeah, it just sort of speaks to the generosity of people that are out there to help you.
Any other questions at this point regarding like surprise gifts or corporate strategies or anything like that that you'd like to ask now? I have just a couple here, I think, from before. I'm going to review them and make sure that we didn't already answer them though. So if you have a question now, you can unmute yourself and go ahead and ask that. One of the questions was, do you still do door-to-door fundraising? And I don't think anybody here does. But I think social media and email is the new door-to-door fundraising, right? Okay. And the other one is, how do you set your goals? How do you decide what your goal is going to be? And of course, you guys are very experienced fundraisers, so your goal probably changes year after year as you gather new connections and whatnot. But if you were just starting out, how would you set a goal for yourself? Kate, I know that you talked about setting a smaller goal and then adjusting it as you get closer to it, but any suggestions on goal setting?
I think that one of the reasons I start with a smaller goal is that once you accomplish that, you feel really good and empowered. So I find if you set a goal that's too high, like it's your first year, you're nervous about asking people, so you set a goal of $4,000. And when you don't get there, especially if you get far from it, you're going to be discouraged and you're going to be a little disappointed. And so I like to start, nothing small. Start with $500, start with $250. And then as you see that goal gets attained, increase it. And then you're going to get really excited. And I do that for myself. And I've been a top pledge earner for probably well over a decade, and I still start small. And I get excited every single time that I get the top of the thermometer, and then I increase it. And you can, feel that right now, that every time throughout, the 2 months that I'm changing and touching the top of that thermometer, I'm excited. And as I get excited, that comes across in my fundraising. Because as I get excited, as I get empowered, I start, sharing that enthusiasm with everybody around me, with all my team, with all my friends, my family, and then that encourages them to donate. So I strongly believe start with something obtainable and work your way up.
I agree with that. When I first started fundraising, I started at 500. And for the first 7 years, it was 500. And I made my way up to 1,000. And then after Sam had her surgery, I went, okay, I got to get a lot more serious with this. And then I increased it to 2,000. And then I became more seasoned. So I was a lot more comfortable with asking people, and then social media. So I definitely agree with Kate. Start small, reach that first level, and then you will get really excited. You will love, I love getting those emails. When you get an email that someone's donated, I love getting those emails. I check my emails constantly. Anybody donate today? I love opening those up, but starting small is important. Don't defeat yourself with $5,000. I set my goals high now because I find, because I am so seasoned now, I need that push. And when I see that thermometer and I see that number there, it pushes me to work harder.
I know I run the Red Deer Walk, and for a lot of people who come to our walk, their goal is to get a t-shirt. That's great. Do that. There's nothing wrong with only wanting to get the t-shirt. That's a great driver. And then maybe next year, set your goal a little bit higher. But, I really believe that we have a successful walk in Red Deer. We have great turnout, and a lot of people are motivated at that first level to get the shirt. So go for it. Get the shirt. Push yourself after you get the shirt. You'll get there. Everyone will. Just set things that are attainable.
Mm-hmm. But goal setting is important. You have to set a goal.
The other thing you can do too when you set your goal is set your goal and then donate to your own page, because it's also nice for when you're asking people to donate to your page that they can see that you've also given already. And then by donating after you've set your goal, you've already put yourself closer to your goal. So that also is kind of nice to see.
Oh, good point, Bradley.
Brenda, did you have a question?
Well, yeah, it's kind of more thinking out loud. I really like what I'm hearing. And between Kate and I think you, Donna, I'm thinking to myself, okay, so I'm not big on social media because I'm almost 100. I do it, but not great at it. So I'm thinking I'm going to do a second letter to everybody, just telling them how excited I am because I'm reaching this number or whatever, and it's all because of them, and hopefully I'll get some more in.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm going to do that.
Yep.
And if they all get mad at me, I'll say, well, Kate told me to do it. Teasing. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, guys.
I just wanted to go back to the surprise supporters. Anne-Marie had put in a comment here, doctors. So Anne-Marie, did you want to just mention your experience there for a brief minute here?
I found that my friends in the healthcare field will give me large sums of money because they have it. And they know what Crohn's is.
Good point.
So do you ask your doctor to donate?
No, I just have friends who are doctors.
Hmm.
And then my first, even an acquaintance, I was shocked at the amount he gave me, and it turned out he's a doctor who has Crohn's. Perfect. And every year he gives me that sum, and I'm like, hey, that gets me going. And I also have another friend who said, if you don't make your goal, and he's a doctor, and he said, yeah, if you don't make your goal, let me know because I'll top you up.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
It shocks me when I'm out fundraising for the raffle table that we have here in Winnipeg. It shocks me when I'm out asking people how many people will say, oh, I have Crohn's disease. I have colitis. And it shocks me how many have never heard of the Gutsy Walk too.
If you want to ask your doctor, reach out to your local chapter organizer, and they can give you some posters that are great to hang up in doctors' offices. And it's a great way to talk to the staff and doctors in your community. And they will usually donate directly to you because you're the one who dropped the poster off. And it also helps the organizers.
Excuse me, I wonder if I could ask a follow-up question to my question before about whether you ever give stories of success. I'm a real newbie to this, to even getting involved with this. And I wondered, like on Telemiracle, they talk about where the money goes and how it actually helps specific people. Now this cause, I guess, is different. It's more into the research area, but are there any success stories that would show exactly, where the money has made a difference in grassroots areas or in research areas that might be motivational for people to give?
I think you're speaking to my heart there, Marianne. I love knowing where the money goes in terms of research. On our website, crohnsandcolitis.ca, there's a whole research section where you can even watch videos of specific researchers talking about the research that they are doing right now that's funded by the dollars that we raise, or have printed summaries of those. And you can go on that website and copy links that you can put in your email for people to see what kind of research is being funded. You can copy and paste a little bit, make sure that you put that it's from this website, but you can copy and paste some information. I think there are a large number of people who would like to just know that these are real people out there that are receiving the dollars to do research here in Canada. So we do have some resources like that, Marianne. If you want some, I can send some to you. Do you guys find that people are asking for that level of information in terms of the research projects to our panelists?
I usually do, and when I talk to people face to face, I do include stuff like that, just even some of the cool research projects that my family has been involved in and the outcomes of that research. So that's just a natural part of what I include, and I think people are interested by that. I also try to make sure as an organizer that we have some of the success that the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation has achieved over the year available at the Gutsy Walk, just to show people what they're fundraising for and how we're helping the cause.
Yeah. I have
That's
a few
great.
people.
Thank you.
I have a few people that ask, but Marianne, like Carol said, you know, the ones that do ask, you know, Crohn's and Colitis website has a lot of great resources. And if they ask, I'll usually send them a couple of, you know, links to here or videos that we've done. And then that usually is like, oh, okay, this is great. But I actually find the Crohn's and Colitis website is amazing for just outlining. I mean, there's actually so much, almost too much information there, but there's so much good information there. It's great.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Thanks.
Brad or Donna, do you guys have any experience with people looking at that sort of research aspect of things when you're asking for donations?
No,
Yours are more about the story.
yeah,
Yeah, mine, I mean, I think the closest I've had is asking what the breakdown of money is. I don't think I've ever had anyone specifically ask for results, but I myself have actually been curious and didn't know that was on the website. So that's good for me to know and to pass on as well.
Great. We're a little bit over time right now. Do we have any questions remaining from the group at large? You can always email Dara or myself, and we can pass them along to our panelists, and hopefully they have a few minutes to answer any last minute questions that you may have. I'll give a minute here for people to unmute themselves if they have a question. All right, that's a lot for very early on a Sunday morning. Thank you very much to our panelists, Darby and Kate from Alberta and Bradley and Donna from Manitoba. We've really appreciated your expertise and your information sharing today. It's going to make us, I know I always look for good ideas too, although I'm staff, I still look for good ideas for my personal fundraising for Crohn's and colitis. So thank you very much. We appreciate it, and enjoy your Sunday.
thank you.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you.